Good evening, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks College Football, College Sports Huddle. How we doing tonight? I want to welcome everybody watching tonight on. Let me kill this music. Want to welcome everybody watching tonight on the TGI Sports Talk platforms, Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitter, as we're better known as. You can also catch us later tonight at midnight on Roku on the Northeast Streaming Sports or North National Streaming Sports. If you go look to download the Roku app, which you should do because it's free and there's lots of great content. I think you're still looking for Northeast Streaming Sports. I got to find out from Mac whether that's accurate or not. But we'll be down there at midnight. We'll repeat the show tomorrow at 6 and on Saturday morning at 9. We're on the Let's Talk Sports Network on their YouTube feed, so we welcome everybody watching there. Lots of great content there too. So please go subscribe to those channels or platforms, and you'll get lots of great content like hopefully you're getting here. Quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff, specifically the Sports Corner that he does every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern with Smoke and Jim Frazier, where they talk about sports all over the country. They're Pittsburgh people. They talk a lot of Pittsburgh sports, but they have a national presence as well. And Ralph does a lot of other great content on RW Media as well. DDH, thumbs up. I want to give a thanks to my guest last Friday on 101 with Keith Engle, Mr. Jim Sundberg, former catcher for the Rangers and Royals and Brewers and Cubs and 85 World Series winner with the Royals. We had great. I mean, the views are through the roof. We're at about 15,000 views for the last 7 days on all the shows. Great job by you guys. And this week, my guest on 101 with Keith Engle on Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time will be Dennis Rasmussen, former pitcher for the Yankees and the Reds and the Padres. 18-game winner with the Yankees. I want to say in '86. I don't have those numbers right in front of me today, but I'll have them with me on Friday for sure. So we'll have some fun then too. And then next Friday we'll probably be off. We're probably going to go on hiatus with this show after tonight. We'll talk about it throughout the show, as we go forward. But we've reached that point where, we take a little 6-week hiatus, come back early to mid-August when football's getting ready to ramp up. If there's something important to talk about, we'll certainly do that. We'll come on and we'll have some conversation about that, but we'll probably take a little hiatus, I think, after tonight. We got the holiday next weekend. I'm off from my real job. I'm going to take a long weekend, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we'll probably have no shows on Wednesday or Friday next week. We'll have the Sunday Stream of Consciousness that weekend and catch up on everything. And then we'll take a pass on Wednesdays for July and first week or 2 weeks of whatever in August. So we'll see how that goes. Unless there's an outcry that you don't get enough of me, but you probably got too much of me already. So anyway, tonight we'll talk to College World Series. Tennessee wins. I picked Tennessee to win once we got to the final 16 teams, actually. And I think I had picked at that point Texas A&M and Tennessee to face off when I saw the brackets. Certainly when we got to 8, I know I did. And we'll talk about their coach pulling a Nick Saban. I mean, you can't have a press conference. And I understand the question was, maybe not a great time right after they lost a heartbreaker to lose the College World Series about him taking the job at Texas. But you can't rip into this guy and then walk off the stage and then take the job the next day. You can't do it. I'm sorry, you can't do it. We can get into that. College football news. Max Venable. Oh my God, man. Coach Venable gets an extension, 6-year extension from Oklahoma. I know he had a decent year last year, but year one with a pretty good roster left behind by Lincoln Riley, not very good. He gets a 6-year extension before he plays a game in the SEC. I'm a little surprised at that. We can talk about that. I got an article we can dive into about the toughest places to play in college football, top 25. We can dive into that a bit. The Longhorn Network is back for Texas. Texas has revived it. It was really the first, I think, the Longhorn Network was the first outside of Notre Dame and NBC, the first network set up by an individual college or conference, which led to the Big Ten Network, the Pac-12 Network, which now is going away, obviously, the SEC Network. So that's coming back as they head into the SEC. A couple other. Again, I'm trying to get some topics to chat about here, but we can talk about whatever you guys want. If you're starting a team outside of the head coach, what's the most important position? It's another tidbit I came across in doing some research the other day. What's the most important position to fill after your head coach? Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, strength and conditioning coach, or now a capologist, right? To manage the NIL and the payroll, basically, since you can certainly pay kids just to come to school. And I cannot read my notes on the last deal here, so let's see. But made blah 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 blah. Yeah, we'll probably figure it out once I start getting into this. We'll figure it out. So anyway, we can talk about all of that stuff tonight. There's John DeLon. How are you, John? Good to have you. Hope you're feeling better. I saw your note. I don't know whether you saw. I think you did mention it. I know you had a little issue last week, so hope you're doing better. We don't want you to be. There was a decent. By the way, it wasn't a great defense, and they played like they weren't a great defense. But other than the quarterback, there was some talent on that offensive side of the football. That was I'm not saying it was a national championship roster. What I'm saying is it was a team that should not have been 6-7. That's all I'm saying. And where did he go last year? Where'd they go last year? 10-3? 9-3? What the hell were they? Oh, gosh. The good news is they still have the old ESPN still got last year's standings up, so it's easy for me to find them. Oklahoma, 10-3. And again, not a bad record, but listen, you got beat by Kansas. Who'd they lose to last year? And I'm not saying Coach Venable won't be a good coach, but to me, there's just it doesn't seem necessary to have. I can't get into last year's roster now. I got their record for whatever reason. I got this year's record. I know they lost to Kansas. I know they lost to Texas. Can't remember. Well, I think they had another bad loss in there, I want to say. Well, I can't find it. And by the way, John, I knew you get a kick when, as soon as and again, other different, obviously different contexts. When you were talking, when we were talking on the North National Streaming sports show here between 6 and 7 o'clock, when CJ mentioned participation trophy, I knew you were going to laugh, and I said, "Don't go there." I knew you were going to have a laugh of that, but I'm against participation trophies in general. I just think we have a difference of opinion about what that means, which we don't have to dive into tonight. Hello, Steve. Great to have you with us up in Perth, New York. I see the audience growing, so I will repeat. This will be the last sports huddle, football huddle for probably 6 weeks. Unless some big news breaks, we'll do a Wednesday show if we have to. But we'll probably take July off and then a week or two, see how the calendar falls in August, and we'll get back in August. We'll start looking ahead to the new season, review the leagues and whatnot. Take a little breather because it's tough. The news. I was so tired of talking about NIL, and like tonight, I'd like to get into a discussion about what I brought up: toughest places to play. I do want to talk about Texas A&M. By the way, the Texas A&M rivalry. We talked about the fact that this rivalry is back. One of the good things, I guess, about realignment and Texas going to the SEC is one of the great rivalries in sports, college sports. Football specifically, but in general is Texas A&M, and it's been kicked up a notch when, you think about the fact that, I'll say his name wrong, right? Schlossnagel, who did a great job at Texas A&M, by the way. I think he came from TCU, if I remember before that. He kept saying at the press conference that he left his family behind. So I don't know if he left his family and took the job at Texas A&M and, he left his wife and kids with somebody else to take care of them, or he just had to drive a long ways to go to work. I don't know. But he got in this bit. If you didn't see the press conference after, I think it was it was a deciding game 3. They lost 6-5 on Monday night, and he got into it with this reporter who asked him about the Texas job and the rumors that were flying everywhere that he was ready to go. And he said here's the quotes. "I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again. That hasn't changed my mind. That hasn't changed in my mind. That's unfair to talk about something like that. I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job. I poured every ounce of my soul into this job. I've given this job every single ounce I could possibly give it. So write that." And then he gets up and walks out. And he takes the job the next day. I mean, at least I guess maybe wait a day after doing that. That's a classic Nick Saban when he was with the Dolphins, getting ticked off every time Alabama came up, all the while he was negotiating with Alabama. I mean, these guys have no freaking brains at all. Great College World Series, by the way. I thought it was exciting all the way through. And if you don't like college baseball, I'll be honest with you, the College World Series to me is exciting. Most of the games are as exciting as anything I watch on a nightly basis in Major League Baseball these days. So, great win. Congratulations to Tennessee, who, by the way, while they've had some success, they went from 2006 to 2018 without making it to the NCAA tournament at all. So they've done a great job. Congratulations to them. These two teams could come back next year too. They're fairly young, and we never know who's going to get drafted and leave, of course. But I think it's a very, very. I think it was a very exciting College World Series and a great end to it, and a weird press conference to go there. John's here. Yeah, we did talk last week. And I got a problem here. Here's my thing. And we talked about this, I think last week. And, so anyway, John's talking about Les Miles suing LSU over vacating. I think it's 37 wins, if I'm not mistaken. John's a LSU fan, as James Martin is, so I don't think James is with us yet tonight. And part of this is, and by the way, Les Miles says he never got a chance. I'm not a huge fan of Les Miles necessarily. Les Miles did some good things at LSU. Won a national championship, almost won 2. The things that he was accused of, the recruiting violations, he never got a chance to defend himself before these wins were taken away by the school in the NCAA. By the way, he's also suing the NCAA and I think the College Football Hall of Fame. We talked about this last week. The College Football Hall of Fame, first of all, has an archaic rules that you have to have a 600 winning percentage and have to have coached 10 years. There's some great coaches that may not meet that criteria. And Les Miles, I'm not saying he belongs in the Hall of Fame at all. But guys like Mike Leach have no chance to get into the Hall of Fame based on, and he's a guy who revolutionized the way the game's played. So the College Football Hall of Fame needs to kind of look at their criteria. With that said, I mean, if we're giving Reggie Bush, and by the way, I don't agree with this, right? The rules were the rules then. You shouldn't be. A ticket can't be reversed. I say this all the time. It's the best analogy I have. If I get a ticket tomorrow for driving 60 in a 40, right, and then 2 years or 3 years from now, they make that 60 miles an hour, that speed limit, I can't go get the money back for that ticket and the points back off my license or whatever. But we're changing the rules in college football, and because of it, Reggie Bush gets his Heisman back. Well, maybe Les Miles ought to get his wins back. I'm not saying that should be the way it goes, but if it's good for this guy, it ought to be good for this guy, and we could probably open up a whole Pandora's box of championships that were vacated, wins that were vacated. Bobby Bowden might be the all-time wins leader again. Or which way is it? I forget now. Was it him or Paterno? Paterno lost wins too. All-time college football coaching wins. I believe that. I can't remember who went ahead of who. Right, Bowden lost games and Paterno went ahead of him. I want to say, yeah, Joe Paterno. So give Bowden back his wins too. I mean, again, I'm not saying do it, but it just seems like there's a huge discrepancy going on here as far as things go. So, Neil Bush, how you doing, buddy? The new Benedict Arnold in the Lone Star State. I agree, Neil. Listen, he can go. He can take the job. I don't care about that. Coaches move around all the time. And in this case, he'd been there for a while. He completed the job. If Texas is a dream job for him, which it ought to be a dream job for anybody coaching college baseball, it's one of the great traditional schools in baseball as well as football, obviously. But you can't do what he did. Maybe you ought to wait a week. Tell Texas, listen, I'll take the job, but we can't talk about it until next week. Because you're going to look like a moron when you just lectured a reporter who asked a question that, I mean, it was on everybody's mind. The rumors have been going around all weekend. Just say no comment. Don't lecture the guy on the questions he should ask and then walk out. I understand it was an emotional time. He just lost he didn't win a national. Did I say he won a national championship? Sorry. He took him to a national championship game. I misspoke. So maybe he didn't complete the job there. But anyway, look at coaches are moving. Do I like it? No, but you can't do it the way this guy did it. Benedict Arnold. I wonder if they know who Benedict Arnold is in the Lone Star State, actually. It was a perfect denial. Which thing? You're talking about he didn't even it's not even a non-denial. It's a denial. Right? He said, if we're talking about Schlossenville, whatever the hell his name is here. Where's his name? God damn it. We're Schlossennagel. He said, nowhere in here is there any kind of denial I'm not taking that job. Now, you're right. He didn't say I'm not taking the job. He did say, by the way, afterwards, now to give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess a little bit, Schlossnagel said after he took the job, he said, he asked a question that was an obvious question. I could have answered it better, but in the moment, all of 30 minutes after the last pitch, all I could think about was our players. And I wasn't in the mood to talk about myself for the future. Well, you did a pretty good job of doing that. Oh, I don't know. It's coaches today. Rick Sherlock, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you with us. Really? I don't know if I remember that story, John. I believe he was accused of getting handsy with the females. Isn't that the thing, though, that they do in the Southeast Conference? Bobby Bowden. Not Bobby Bowden. Sorry, Bobby Bowden. Bobby Petrino. Well, I guess that was consensual, so it wasn't a big deal until he racked up his motorcycle. My guess is you don't think of Arkansas as an SEC team anyway, but I could be wrong. I do want to know, John, actually, what are your thoughts, right? I mean, the SEC, if we go back, 30 years, which we can't do, would you prefer the SEC still be competing against Texas, Texas A&M, Arkansas, as part of the old Southwest Conference, which was a good football league, obviously? Everybody in that league, if I'm not mistaken, was in Baylor or was in Texas, except Arkansas. I mean, wouldn't you prefer that was still the way it was, rather than taking pretty much, I mean, the top tier at least of the old Southwest Conference is now in the Southeast Conference? Anyway, what else you got here? You're saying the field staff, and it was settled out of court because LSU didn't want to go through discovery. Yeah, I'm sure nobody wants to go through discovery in college football programs, right? Because they're going to find out what I keep telling you all the time, that all this stuff everybody's doing. Again, discovery in this situation probably much different. CA, how are you, buddy? Great to have you with us. Our last college football huddle for oh, sorry, something from work distracted me. Last college football huddle for a few weeks, 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, whatever. We'll see how it goes. All of July, unless there's big news, and we'll get on the air. Rick says, we're college presidents. We had a college president here locally, again, small time, Division III school, Hudson Valley Community Colleges. Their president was fired for sexual harassment today. Hello, James. How are you, buddy? Listen, James, you weren't here, I don't think, last week. What are your thoughts? John just brought up, and I did talk about it last week. I don't know if you were here, so we'll talk about this again. I want to talk about, if anybody's interested in talking about it anyway, Venable's contract extension with Oklahoma. The toughest places to play in college football. I want to go through a list that I put together based on some information I found. And what? Oh, was that says Texas. That made Texas touch. Oh, boy. I really, really am interested in what I wrote here. It'd be fun to know. So anyway, James, you're an LSU fan. Les Miles, good coach, won a national championship, had a chance at another one, played Alabama, and Nick Saban tough much of the time he was there. I know that John, our other resident LSU fan, is not a big fan of Les Miles. Should he get his 37 wins back? I say no, but Reggie Bush shouldn't get his Heisman back either. If Reggie gets his Heisman back, should Les Miles get his 37 wins? And I guess second part of this, John, you haven't answered this question either. Should the Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame, change their restrictions or their requirements, criteria for coaches making it? They have to have 600 winning percentage. Mike Leach is out because of that. Howard Schnellenberger won one of the most important games in college football history, which started a dynasty at Miami. He can't get in. And maybe he shouldn't be, but Larry Coker's in. Go figure. Tommy Tuberville is up for nomination, but Mike Leach isn't. Pete Carroll isn't. I know what you'll say about Pete Carroll, John, so save it. I don't know. Should he get the wins back, number one? And should a Hall of Fame change their criteria? Because it's ridiculous. I mean, what if you only coach 8 years, won 4 national championships? You can't get in because you didn't coach 10 years. Some ridiculous stuff, right? I mean, good grief. But it's good to have you with us here tonight, James. I was on with James earlier on the National Streaming Sports show, which we do Wednesdays from 6 to 7 p.m., just before this show. You can always catch that, and I've been sharing it to my feed. I've been trying ever since the Mac and Jack show and Northeast Streaming Sports, which is now National Streaming Sports, had some Facebook trouble, which is normal. I got a message for some bots that keep telling me. I'll get into that later. Hopefully they'll leave a message tonight like they did Sunday, and I can go off on their the people in their mom's basement. But I've been trying to share the shows when I go on from Mac and Jack. Friday mornings I share it before I'm on from 8 to 8:30, and I share the show. And then Sunday mornings I try to share it too, be in a place simultaneous with my show that starts at 8:30. But we certainly want to get the exposure, and you guys have been tuning into that show, so thank you for that. Aggies baseball. Listen, Schlossnagel did a great job at Texas A&M. He did a good job at TCU before that. I would say they were favored to win this series against Tennessee. I did like Tennessee to win it myself. But, you know, the Baseball World Series, I think, is just, it's a great, the tournament itself is it's a lot of fun. 3 weeks leading up to that final 3-game series is a lot of fun. John, I think answering my question about the Southwest Conference and the SEC back in the day, the conference is being different is a sign of the times more than anything. College football was more regional back then. Now it's more national. Big fish eat little fish, not much more than that. I will look at, I get it. And I'm really trying to come to grasp with the fact that this is the way it is. And I've got to find a way to enjoy the games. If the games are there and I feel the same excitement on Saturdays, which is a lot more excitement than there is on Sundays, and I'm a big NFL fan, but the energy on Saturdays is 10 times what you see on Sundays in my mind. But I disagree that it was regional then. Well, no, I take that back. It was regional. What college football misses out on is that it's a regional sport with national interest. People are interested in regional rivalries, and when we lose that, that's when we lose some of the luster, I think. The SEC now, again, one of the byproducts, the good byproducts of this realignment is that Texas and Texas A&M get to resume their rivalry. But Oklahoma and Oklahoma State is gone for at least the foreseeable future, if not forever. The Red River rivalry will be able to continue because Oklahoma went along with Texas. But look at that, could have gone a different way, and that would be gone. Oklahoma, Nebraska. These are great rivalries that we don't get anymore. USC and UCLA, John, I know you don't think there's any good football played on the West Coast, but at least they get to continue their rivalry because they went together. Washington State. Maybe these aren't important rivalries to the casual fan. Actually, I think the casual fan does look at some of these, even lesser rivalries, as a big deal. So I think the regional part of college football is very important to its survival. And I do think at some point, the NCAA is going to realize that. And as we get into even more realignment, there'll be Super League, right? There won't be 121 or 131, I guess, teams. You know, there'll be 40 or 60 or whatever it is. And then we'll be playing regional games again, I believe. Again, they haven't all gone away. Les Miles got caught with his hand in a cookie jar. The problem is that everyone has their hand in a cookie jar one time or another. Well, again, here's the thing. And now if he got let go for cause because of what John brought up as far as being handsy or whatever. Basically, though, those 37 wins were for recruiting violations, which most likely involved some kind of payola, which today's totally legal. And I don't think, again, I think on this show, I think I was in the minority. And the other shows I've been on, for sure, I was in the minority when I said Reggie Bush shouldn't be getting his Heisman back. Again, the rules were the rules then. Just because they changed now doesn't mean we should look the other way on what happened before. And if Reggie's getting his Heisman back, shouldn't Les get the 37 wins? I don't know. That's a tough one on whether he deserves. Again, I don't know. And by the way, I don't think that gets him into the Football Hall of Fame anyway. His lawsuit is basically because he feels he's being deprived of a chance at the Hall of Fame because those 37 wins drop his win percentage under 600, which brings up the other part of this discussion that I brought up, that the Hall of Fame criteria is just ridiculous in my mind. They should have criteria, but willing to make exceptions. By the way, Leach wasn't that great. He was 11-15 in SC. Well, look at he also took a really downtrodden Texas Tech team almost to a national championship. He turned around Texas Tech. He turned around Washington State, and to a lesser extent, and maybe he would have succeeded if he lived. Let's not just judge him by he was 11-15 in the SEC. Let's look at his record at Washington State and what he did at Texas Tech. And what he meant. Listen, if you know, John, I think, and to me, it isn't just numbers, wins and losses. It's what you meant to the game. This guy was a big part of revolutionizing the way the offensive part of college football was played, not just when he became a head coach, well before it. When he was coaching on some other staffs that included guys like Sonny Dykes and Hal Mummy and guys who really believed in this air raid offense and preached it, lived it. And listen, whether it was good or bad, it had a lasting effect on the game of college football. So that's why I think Mike Leach, again, do I think he's a slam dunk Hall of Famer? I do not. But I think they should have, I think he should have a chance to get in, and he doesn't because his coaching record is like, the winning percentage is like 598. Schnellenberger's under 600. Well, you could argue Coach Schnellenberger doesn't belong in. He won a very important game in that 1983, I want to say, Orange Bowl, and started what the Miami dynasty became. But Larry Coker gets in for, having taken over a team that was ready to win and winning a national title at Miami. Won. So it's just a little messed up. Wings? What'd I say? Did I say wings? I don't know. I lost the wings part. What'd I say? I could say anything. I am so tongue-tied today. I don't know what's going on. It happens every once in a while. I don't get a lot of sleep. My wife's babysitting our granddaughter this week. She's 21 months old last weekend. She's as smart as a whip, but she is hard to keep track of. And when she takes a nap, they use a sound machine for her. Well, my wife couldn't figure out how to turn it off last night. I didn't know. I went to bed. I was tired. I went to sleep. Well, I woke up at like 3:30 hearing this noise. I had no idea what it was. I had no clue. I thought the basement was flooding. I'm checking the bathrooms, going all over the house in the middle of the night without my glasses, trying to find this thing. I finally stayed up and assumed I was losing my mind. And then this afternoon, I go up there after the baby had taken her nap, the toddler, excuse me. And I hear this same noise. And sure enough, good grief. Hi, Chris. How are you, buddy? Sorry. Happy birthday to Jason Kendall, who was drafted out of Torrance High School. Torrance also produced Fred Kendall, his dad. Jason Kendall, by the way, I guess his best days probably were with the A's. Then the Pirates to a lesser extent, and he hung around baseball for a while. His dad, he was a much better player than his dad, by the way. I remember his dad very well, played with the Padres and probably maybe another team, maybe the Tigers. But I remember mostly as a Padre. Not a very well-known name around baseball, but and the late Justin Miller, who just passed away 11 years ago today. So, well, our thoughts and prayers with the Miller family, and happy birthday to Jason Kendall. Very good major league catcher in his time. Mike Leach was a tremendous offensive mind. I agree. I mean, he had a great effect on the team. He did put Michael Crabtree on the map at Texas Tech for sure. It's funny. I think, John, I really thought you'd be a bigger Mike Leach fan because I remember when he passed away, I had made a comment that he was a polarizing figure in college football, and which is probably the wrong term to use. And I think you kind of defended Mike Leach at that time, and maybe it was somebody else, but I thought it was you, John. And remember, when I was talking about the polarizing figure, it was because a lot of the things that went on at Texas A&M and, kids that were kind of put in timeouts and Craig James making a big deal about his kid. And there was a lot of controversy about that at the time at Texas Tech. And that was about the end of his time with Texas Tech. But listen, he had that team. He had a team at number 2 in the country. And again, except for a couple late season losses. And I understand, if your aunt, had different whatever, she'd be your uncle. But I understand. He was a great coach. And you've got, when you have an effect on the game, the way a Mike Leach did, the way a Bobby Bowden did, and he had a lot of wins. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Coach Spurrier. Again, these are guys who had a huge effect on the game outside of the wins and losses and national championships or lack of national championships. So anyway, yes, he did put Michael Crabtree on the map for sure. I wanted to get into this. I want to see if if I can remember what this frickin' question was that I had, because I was going through the mailbag here. There's the Venable question. Don't care about that one. I thought that was an interesting question. It was the what's the most important position after head coach? Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, strength and conditioning coach, or capologist? It might be capologist now. But I can tell you that Mandel in the Athletic says strength coach far and away more important. Your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, because of these kids in the the way they spend roughly 8 months training without getting on a football field. And if you don't have a good one, you're not going to get anywhere. He also thinks the capologist is the second most important, which is a sad state of the affairs of college football, I guess. But what do you got here? Joe Paterno minus controversy as well. Joe Paterno is obviously one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. That whole thing that went down there, and I mean, you can think whatever you think. Did Joe know? I mean, if he didn't know, then he should have. It was lack of institutional control. But it was really sad in the end for Paterno and his family. But when you weigh that against what went on with Sandusky and for way too long, it's hard to feel that sorry for Coach Joe. By the way, little known fact about Joe Paterno: he accepted. Maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't. I believe in 1972, I believe, he accepted the New England Patriots head coaching job and then gave it back like 2 days later. But I'll give you a little known fact maybe about Joe Paterno. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. If you're old enough, you might know. If only I had aces when I flipped over pocket fours. What? If I had aces when I flipped over, now I get it. Sorry. I realized when I said that, right? I get it. If it wasn't for 2 late season losses, a lot of teams would have been competing for a national championship. That's a good one, John. It's probably cleaner than the one that I almost always use. It's not politically correct, but I'll share it here. If my aunt had different equipment, she'd be my uncle, which in today's environment is not as funny as it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I guess I should start using it. If only I had aces. Scott Colby. I did talk about the Texas A and blah, blah, blah baseball coach yet. What do you got, Scott? Share it with me, buddy. I said, look, coaches have a right to leave, but you cannot, just to repeat real quickly, you cannot lecture a reporter I understand. 30 minutes after the game, the reporter asks a question. He's still hurting for his team, he says, but he goes in quite a soliloquy about, I gave up everything. He said he left his family. It didn't come up in the quote here. I heard it. He left his family behind to take this job, and he made it sound like it was a lifelong dream. I plan to be here the rest of my life. And then, so write that. So you can't lecture that guy and then take the job that he's asking you about the next day, less than 24 hours later. Can't do that. You better wait a few days. It's a bad look is all I'm saying. And again, Texas is one of those coveted jobs in college baseball, so I don't blame the guy for taking the job. That's been the kind of the consensus, John, is that strength and conditioning is most important. And second might very well be that guy to manage the NIL salary cap, if you will. Because these teams, again, and that's kind of a sad state of or speaks to the sad state of college athletics, that it's more important than your offensive and defensive coordinator, right? College scouts are underrated too. Yeah, especially the ones with the cameras, right, John? I don't want to go down that road again. Yes, college scouts are underrated. Special teams. Rick, I hope you're still with us. Special teams coaches don't even get brought up here. I would say special teams coaches are as important as your offensive and defensive coordinators, by the way. More games are won and lost on special teams than anywhere else. And it's interesting, James, because you brought this up about kick returners in getting into the NFL Hall of Fame. I do think that the Devin Hesters of the world have their place in those types of halls of fame, if you will, because special teams are something that we don't pay close enough attention to until things go wrong. And I mean, every week in college and in the pros, you can see where special team failures cost teams games, and playing really good special teams win teams games. So I think like, I'll give you a perfect example, James. And again, we're getting off the college beat a little bit, but we're just going back to a conversation that we had about it started over women getting into the NHL Hall of Fame, but James had talked about the NFL Hall of Fame, which is another funky organization, by the way, as far as we have to take people every year, whether they deserve it or not. What James was talking about, and if I miss speaking here, James, you feel free to correct me. That maybe kick returners and special teamers maybe didn't belong. I don't know. That's the way I heard it. Matthew Slater, I will tell you right now, 18-year veteran, just retired with the Patriots, should be in the Hall of Fame. He was that important to that team, that special teams unit. He didn't play very rarely. He was a wide receiver when he did play. But, geez, I don't know if he caught a pass the last 12 years of his career. Canadian Football Hall of Famer Earl Winfield went to the University of North Carolina from 82 to 85. He was the all-time Tar Heel leader in receptions with 107. He left as Chris. I have appointed to find me innocuous facts that we can talk about on all the shows. He does a good job of it too. Scott says if Notre Dame beats Texas opening week, they could be 12-0 this year. Oh, maybe you were. I thought you were talking about the baseball coach, Scott. If you weren't, I apologize. No, I think you did. If Notre Dame beats Texas opening week, they could be 12-0 this year. Listen, Notre Dame's a top 5 team this year in my mind. That Texas game could be huge. Let's look at it. This is what we do here. When these questions come up, we look at the schedule. And if we look at, I gotta find one of these things I got on college sports. I need Notre Dame's schedule. Hang on a second. I'll get there. I promise you I'll get there. Can I get there? I'm going to click on Notre Dame because I know they're playing. Of course, I can't find them. Damn it. Bear with me a second. We're going to go through Notre Dame's schedule here real quick. By the way, there are only two independent teams left. I take that back. 3. Army now has joined the AAC, so there's only Notre Dame, UConn, and Massachusetts. So you could argue there's 1. Here's the by the way, they play Texas. Oh, I guess that is A&M. What is that you're writing there? Why does that come up? Is there a reason that's //? I'm going to call at Texas A&M a win for Notre Dame. I don't think we've been through their schedule yet. Win, Northern Illinois, easy win. At Purdue, not easy, but I think they win that game. That's 3-0. Miami, Ohio, 4-0. Louisville, they got them at home, so I'll go 5-0. Stanford, 6-0. Georgia Tech on the upswing, but at home, 7-0. Navy, 8-0. Florida State, at home, 9-0. Virginia, Army, 11-0. Then they go to USC. This USC game, quite possibly could be the most important game of Lincoln Riley's career. I think he went to a championship game, right? It might be the most important game of his USC career because if things go the way I think they're going to go for USC this year in the Big Ten, which is not going to be very good, Coach Riley could be coaching for his job in that Notre Dame game. I think their only chance for a loss is going to be the first and the last week, Scott, so I'll agree with you. This is going to be a top 5 team. And I know John's going to tell me, look at the schedule. 1,000% Scott agrees with me. He's a typical coach who knows he's leaving, and Texas aide said he wasn't leaving Omaha without a coach. And the Texas aide said, yeah, listen, he was AD, sorry. There's no way. The rumors flew all weekend. And a little bit before that he was leaving for Texas. The guy asked the perfect question. And I brought up that it reminded me of Nick Saban when he was at Miami, continuing to deny he had any interest in the Alabama job. Why, guy? It makes you look like an idiot. Don't say anything. No comment. You might as well say no comment. Don't say anything. Don't lecture reporters. Nick Saban did it in Miami. Now, I'll never say his name right again. Spoon Nagel does it at Texas A&M, and 1,000 other coaches have done it too. John says people thought Brian Kelly was nuts for hiring a roster manager in his first year of the NIL, but now it is. And again, I've had to become more accepting of these things because they're here to stay, right? This is the state of college football. If it was up to me, we'd turn the clock back 30 years. I can't do that. I just don't know what to say. But yeah, so capologists have become a big thing to where it's maybe the number 2, well, behind the head coach, the number 2 the second most important position on the college staff. Scott's off Twitter. It's screwing up what I am saying unless it's the retirement home internet. I don't seem to be having any problem. You're commenting from Twitter. It's good to know that we're getting the comments from Twitter. I like that. Because I'm always checking to see if that's the case. Looking to see where we got people here. Sometimes I can see people. Mark Mancini, I see he was out there tonight. No comment from Mark. The LA hater. Ashton Nix, how you doing tonight? And I can see we got a good audience on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube page on Let's Talk Sports. That's probably Scott, maybe. And we got a really good audience on Twitter again. Great job. James, so I did put this question to James about special teams. Am I shrinking, or is this just a lot of stuff in front of me here? I feel like I'm shrinking before me. There is a place for special team players in the Hall of Fame. I just think that there's a criteria that's needed to be revamped to not allow guys that are more deserving pass away and receive their bid posthumously. Mel Gray's another great player. Yeah, Mel Gray was a great player. The argument also, Dion was just as good as a special teamer as a quarterback. Very, very, very good points, James. The problem is, here's the thing with special teamers, it's very hard to come up with a criteria. There's no, you can't make it tackles, you can't make it interceptions, fumbles, It's very hard to come up with something to say special teamers who do this, right? Guys who play positions where you accumulate numbers are easy to evaluate, or easier to evaluate, I should say, right? Quarterbacks, we can see their numbers. Running backs and wide receivers, we can see their numbers. Even defensive players. I would argue that the numbers don't always tell the real story. I mean, the guys who get the most interceptions aren't necessarily the best defensive backs because you don't throw with the best defensive backs, so they don't intercept a lot of passes. I am getting short in my old age, right? No, my chair keeps going down, so I probably ought to lose some weight because the chair keeps going down. Oh, God. I have lost 10 pounds, but it's like a deck chair blowing off the Titanic, to quote Al McGuire, speaking of Rick Majerus at one point. Oh, Lord. Let's go through this. We got about 8 o'clock. I'm going to go through this toughest places, if I can find the article again. There we go. This is Bruce Feldman. I thought I had another one, too. Well, maybe we'll find one in here, because I thought there was 25 of these, I thought. So, by the way, this is Bruce Feldman from the Athletic. This is his ranking. James and John, listen up. The number one toughest place to play, Tiger Stadium in LSU. He can remember 2007 when Florida and Tim Tebow came to Death Valley on a Saturday night. Night games were always tougher, I thought, in Death Valley than day games. Les Miles went for it five times. Speaking of Les Miles, went for it 5 times on 4th down. His team and their faithful, he had his back every step of the way. So the team and his faithful had his back every step of the way for a come-from-behind 28-24 win. It was a record crowd at the time in 92,000. Sounds like twice as many people were packed into that stadium. So he was there. I'm sure there's other legendary games there as well. So that's number one. No, it's not the EA Sports list. This one's from Bruce Feldman. I thought Mandel from The Athletic did one as well. We'll look at it. But there you go. Go Tigers. Tiger Stadium at night is even tougher in Baton Rouge. The drive for 5 begins. Hello, Ralph Williams from RW Media. We mentioned Ralph at the top. Make sure you check out Ralph's stuff on RW Media, especially the Sports Corner with Smoke and Jim Frazier every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Ralph does some great stuff. A lot of Pittsburgh stuff, but a lot of national presence as well. And Ralph even gets into local politics there. Number 2, Bryant-Denny Stadium in Alabama. Death Valley night's very hard. 28-14 at night versus Florida, with quarterback Herb Tyler. Alabama's Denny Stadium, Bryant-Denny Stadium. Sorry. 3, Penn State, Beaver Stadium. The Whiteouts have become famous the last 10 years or so, maybe longer. I guess it was again, another tough place to play at night. But James Franklin doesn't win big games. So you need to beat Michigan and beat Ohio State now and again at home, too, by the way, because your record is only about, I don't know, last I remember, like 3-18. Speaking of Ohio Stadium, the Horseshoe. The Buckeyes have been one of the top 10's most dominant programs for a long time, for sure. The Horseshoe is a towering building that feels much different, more intimidating than the Big House, which holds more people at Michigan, obviously. This is an interesting one, and I've been here to a game when Boston College traveled to Lane Stadium in the early 2000s when a friend of mine's son was offensive lineman for the Boston College. Isn't that terrible? I can't think of their nickname right now. Good grief. Somebody help me out. It'll come to me. It don't pay to get old, I'm telling you. Anyway, he played offensive line there behind Max Ryan for Boston College for 3 years. Started 3 years and then went to the Bears in the NFL draft. Played a few years in the NFL. So Virginia Tech Lane Stadium, I've been there to Blacksburg at night, and it's a tough place to play. It is loud, and it is just a unique kind of stadium in my mind. I think it's built like on a rock foundation or something. Any interest in the draft tonight? Here's the thing. And I'll go back to this in a second. So we're on number 5. Remind me. It's hard. We talked about this on the National Streaming Sports Show before. It's hard to get pumped up. It's not like the NFL where you know all these guys, right? I'm interested in what the Knicks do. There's a kid from Virginia who all of a sudden now is escaping my mind again. Ryan Dunn, who I'm hoping the Knicks can grab at 24. They may trade 25. So I'm interested in what the Knicks do. But 5 of the first 10 picks are likely to be guys that play in Europe or for the team that plays in the G League. So guys didn't even play in college. We got 2 guys from France, a guy from Serbia, 2 guys from what do you call that team? A lot of guys skip college and go play here. Help me out. Got a guy from Australia too, by the way. He might have been one of the Ignite. The Ignite. That's the team I'm thinking of. So, again, do I have some interest? Yeah. It's like the NFL, though. You know the guys, and the hype is there. And unless there's a really big name coming out in college, there's just really no. Chestnut Hill is a tough place to play. I don't know if it'll come up on the list here, Scott, but that's a great one, too. Why can't I think of Boston College's freaking... Harsh truth is, Tiger Stadium has lost some of what it makes so special. A younger crowd leaves at halftime. So they can be seen at campus bars. It's just lame. What's the point of going to a game and leaving at halftime? Now, that's like those LA guys, John. They all go to baseball games and leave in the 7th inning. I'll never forget. And again, I know John's not a fan of California any more than I am, any more than obviously Mark Mancini, who lives there, is. I'll never forget when Kirk Gibson hit the big home run in 1988 to win Game 1 against the A's and just set all the momentum. It's only a bat in a series, up there limping around and barely able to stand up in a box, and he hits a home run. And what was most notable as they're showing his home run is the stream of red taillights leaving the parking lot, who never saw one of the most iconic moments in World Series history. So that's what you're turning into at LSU. Don't do that, John. Jeez. Oh, God. Number 6, Florida, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, the Swamp. It's interesting. Now we've already got 3 out of 6, about to be 4 out of 7 SEC locales. Because number 7 is Neyland Stadium in Tennessee. This is one I would not have thought of. Autzen, I hope I'm saying that right, Stadium in Oregon. There's 5 out of 9 for you, John and James. And Rick, it's Georgia's Sanford Stadium is number 9. Number 10, Texas A&M Kyle Field. I wouldn't say it's a very tough place to play since Jimbo Fisher got there. We'll see if whether they can turn that around with the new coaching staff. I thought I had another list here. Oh, I thought it was Mandel. Let me check it out here. Hold on. I thought I had a more extensive list, but I guess I don't. That's too bad. Oh, anyway. So that's the list. Look at 5 of the 10 or 6. Was it 6 out of 10? We're in the SEC. Here's the thing, and John doesn't. Well, I think he does understand. I think John, and James. I'll fill you in. The SEC is definitely the best football conference in the country. There's no doubt about it, and it has been for some time. My only thing with the SEC elite, this was John. I won't call you that, James, but John thrives on the moniker, so I continue to use it for him. I agree. It's great football being played in the Southeast Conference, but there's some really good football being played elsewhere around the country. There was some really good football being played in the Pac-12, which doesn't exist anymore after 125 plus years. And it's very sad. There's going to be interesting football played in the Big 12. That's a conference that there's 7 teams that could win that conference. And any one of those teams could finish 7th or they could finish 1st. Take 7 teams, any one of them 1st to 7th, they could probably finish. Are they as good as the SEC? No, but you're going to see some fun football out there. The ACC is still going to have some good stories. If Florida State if DJU, ukulele, can improve. I don't think he was all that good at Oregon State this last year. He gets to play Clemson again. If he can replace, my God, I'm bad with names tonight. Scott, did you take my meds and I was taking some placebo today or what? Because the brain fog today is terrible. Jordan Taylor, thank you. If he can take his place, fill his shoes, there's still a lot of talent on that Florida State team. And Mike Norvell has shown that he can coach at that level. And Florida State's still a story. Clemson will be a story to see if Dabo can turn things around at Clemson. Louisville has got some talent coming back. So ACC is still an interesting league. Notre Dame plays good football. The Big Ten is going to be very, very competitive this year, and very interesting storylines with the West Coast teams coming in there. So there is good football, and the AAC has even really got some interesting football. Now, do I say that they're better than the SEC? No, I'll never say that. But again, I don't want to ignore. I'm a fan. I'm a Miami fan if they're playing well, but I'm a fan of good stories when it comes to college. I'm a little different than I am in the pros. I'm a Yankee and a Patriot fan, and damn everybody else. I don't really care about great stories. I care. Don't get me wrong. But college sports, I look for, especially basketball and football. I'm looking for good stories, right? And when Notre Dame's really good, that's good for college football. When any of the blue bloods are good in football or basketball, that's good for the sport. The Kentuckys in basketball, the Notre Dame's in football, the Penn State's in football, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, LSU, all of those, they're all blue bloods. Miami likes to think they're a blue blood. They're not really, you know. I mean, I became a Miami fan, and I really enjoyed that 83 Orange Bowl with Schellenberger's team and Tom Osborne going for 2, not getting it to win. He could have tied it and won a national championship, and he didn't. And I give him credit for that. But Miami's not a blue blood. Miami's had a 20-year span from 83 to 2003 or 4 where they were really good, maybe the best program in the country. That's it. It doesn't go back decades like Texas and Oklahoma and Alabama, Georgia. With Georgia, actually, Georgia's new to the blue bloods, but they had one national championship in their history before Kirby Smart got there. They're a new blue blood. But when I say blue blood, you got to have been a really good team over decades. Not every year, but Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State. I'll put USC in there. I get it. They weren't any good maybe till the 60s when John McKay got there. They had some teams before that. Not consistent. But I think you can go back 60 years and I can say that's a blue blood. And LSU, I guess I will give you the benefit of the doubt, but more recently than historically. And you guys may argue with me, but that's just what I'm saying. I'm making a DEI appeal. What the hell is that? What is a DEI appeal? Do I need to Google this? And am I going to be appalled by what I see? I'm going to put DEI appeal, see what comes in. What is DEI secret appeal? What does DEI stand for? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Will you stop it? What? Where does that come from? Tell me where that comes from. Because I say that is, John, I got it now. Yeah. You're fortunate I can't be offended by anything because that would be the most offensive thing you could probably call me. I know you've actually tried to call me more offensive things than that, John, but fortunately I don't get offended by anything. And well, I know you think none of us Northerners can be true conservatives. I can guarantee you that I am. I can tell you that there are things that just some social issues I don't care to take the crazy wing of my party's approach because it doesn't affect me. So why should I care? Now, that doesn't mean I care about, I don't need inclusion, right? I don't think women ought to be playing men's sports. I don't think women who used to be men ought to be playing women's sports or vice versa. The advantage would be to that. But so, I know you'd like to try to get my goat, but you're not going to get it tonight. So, but that's just me. How you equate me saying there's good football being played elsewhere besides the SEC into a DEI, which I don't even know what it means. I had to look it up. So that tells you how much I follow that mantra. Yes, I will be holding my nose and voting for the orange-haired man again. I'm a Republican, not a Trumpster. I'm a level-headed Republican, which I know the other side of the aisle does not think exists, but I'm here. And there's more like me. Let's get back to football. See, I knew you would agree, James. You are level-headed, non-biased opinionator. You're a big SEC fan. You're a big LSU fan. But you know that there's good football being played elsewhere. Oh, my God. What else is going on in college football? Get me off this topic before I get myself in a lot of trouble. God, is there anything good going on this? This is why we're going to take a little hiatus, because there's nothing to talk about except contract extensions, a few, a little bit of recruiting news to talk about. But otherwise, it's, FCS school challenges a house versus NCAA settlement. It's NIL. It's Les Miles suing LSU. We got to get to where we can have some fun, talking football. Oh, there's also the Big 12 taking a big equity, potentially, diving into selling 15 to 20% of the league revenue to an equity firm, or giving them a share in the league, I should say, of 15 to 20% for about $1 billion, $800 to $1 billion, and selling the naming rights to Allstate for upwards of $1 billion. So maybe they're not that safe as I thought. I don't know. By the way, I can't wait. Does anybody think? And so we'll take this for a few minutes into a political conversation, not political conversation, but it's political in the sense that there is a contest coming up tomorrow night that I feel won't happen. This early season debate between John's favorite president and everybody's favorite ex-president, I don't think will happen. The Democrats cannot put Biden, and maybe it's a good thing if they do. If they put him out there, it's going to be a shit show. Excuse my French. And maybe they'll have to put somebody else on the ticket. That doesn't help somebody like me, because I doubt that they're going to put anybody up there that I could possibly vote for. I had some hopes that there might be some conservative Democrats left in the world, but there's not. What's this? Maybe a special show? There you go, John. You were reading my mind. We should do that. My own personal opinion is there won't be one. Something will happen, and one or more of these guys won't show up. Because if this does happen, I don't see how any way the Democrats get to their convention and don't have a new person at the top of that ticket. Now, that's no better news for a guy like me who doesn't want to vote for his party's nominee, because while I am a very staunch conservative Republican, yes, John, they exist up here in the Northeast. Just because I like, 12-team playoffs and don't have whatever. Anyway, we don't all love the orange-haired clown. Now, I will tell you that my bank account grew greatly during those 4 years. But I don't need to deal with the rest. So anyway, I really believe there's a chance it won't happen at all. Zachary Reichhauser, that's one of the guys from Reicher. How do you say that? Reicher, taking #1 overall. He's one of the kids from France, I think, right, James? Presswood got no wrongs. Not a Trump fan, wanted DeSantis. I did too. I was a big DeSantis fan. I like Nikki Haley myself. I know people think she's, too liberal. I don't think she is. I think that was a Trump thing. Well, I don't disagree with you there, John. Prestwood's in the wrong room. What room do you think you came into, John? The college football huddle I'm sorry, John, Prestwood. Did you think you came into the college football huddle and you ended up in a political debate? Blame the SEC guy. If you're still here, Prestwood, I'm serious. Tell me what room you thought you were going into. If it was a college football huddle room, I apologize. Every now and again, my shows diverge into a little bit of off-topic stuff, but usually on Sundays in a stream of consciousness. But again, it just goes to show you why there's not a lot to talk about in the world of college sports other than the Texas A&M coach and NL money and blah, 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 which is why we're going to take 6 weeks off, 5 or 6 weeks off, until we get into some topics that are worthy of talking about. And once we come back, by the way, we'll dive into handicapping the power conferences, obviously, even the ones that are not power conferences. Sorry, John, there are, 9 other conferences now, not 10, because one disappeared off the face of the earth after 125 years. History means nothing. I mean, I suppose that makes me, something as well. I just like my traditions. So we'll get back. We'll look at that. We'll look at the quarterback topics. We'll look at some of the Heisman favorites and coaches in trouble. Just the normal stuff. We'll get Larry Sorensen on to talk about the ACC and maybe even Michigan it a little bit. As Larry, if you don't know Larry, he was a former Major League Baseball pitcher, went to Michigan, played baseball at Michigan, pitched for the Brewers and the Cardinals, the A's, and a couple other teams. We had Larry on a bunch of times. We did an interview on 101 with Larry about his career, and Larry's become a big contributor to our college football huddle as well. So we'll have him on to talk about the state of college sports. I think we're going to have Larry on the 101 show, too, to talk about the state of Major League Baseball at some point, especially pitching. Presswood, I wish you were still here. That looks like Tucker Carlson, actually. So I wonder if Presswood was... you don't have to apologize for coming in, though, Presswood. I like that. I do like that. What do you call that? Oh, man. Here I go again. Doesn't it look like Tucker Carlson? That's not a shot. I like that. Maybe Trump will take Tucker with him. I'd be all right. Here's the thing, too. The only saving grace I have is maybe, if Trump's got to govern from prison, let's say, which isn't going to happen. Lee Stefanik here, who is my congresswoman from New York State, is a possibility to be a running mate. So, very staunch conservative, John. Just, there are some of us up here. We're not all, Chuck Schumer. I don't know how I got on this topic tonight. That tells you how little there's going on and why we need a few weeks off, right? Oh, what do you got? Alex Sarr, number 2, Wizards from France. So that was pretty much expected, I think. The 2 guys from France, 1 and 2. Let me take a look here. We might wait for one more pick to come through. I had here we go, right here. Here's the last mock I had from, Yep. Actually, he's from Australia, right? Sarr? This says, maybe he played with the Perth Wildcats. He's from France. Okay. He did play. He's 7 foot. 7 foot Australian. Frenchman. He must have played in Australia. So up next is the Rockets. Reed Shepherd is projected to go there. 6'2" guard from Kentucky. Stephen Castle from UConn. projected at number 4. Buzelis from the G League Ignite, 5. Necht from Tennessee to Charlotte at 6. Portland Donovan Klingen from UConn, nice player, 7'2". We'll see how that goes. Dillingham from Kentucky to the Spurs. The Grizzlies, the Ignite forward Ron Holland, and the Jazz at 10, Topic from Serbia. So we'll see how that turns out. The Knicks, 24 and 25 tonight they pick. We'll see how that goes. One of the squad is gone. Bowman found he was not supported. Huh? Bowman. I missed something here. Who's Bowman? What happened to U.S. players not being the best in the NBA anymore? You know what it is, I think? This is just my theory, and I was thinking about this afternoon, James. And we got about 8 minutes left before we get off here. And again, we're going to take a little sabbatical for those guys who might have just joined us. This will be our last show for maybe the 1st of July anyway, and then we get into August, we'll play it by year, but probably 1 or 2 weeks into August, and then we'll get back into the swing of things here. And if something important happens, we'll certainly do a show. But my theory here on these U.S. players is so many of them are coming out early that these kids are playing at a higher level in Europe. They're playing a better brand of basketball than what's being played on the NCAA level in a lot of cases, I think. And while there's still a lot of them are still young guys, like even a Topic, they don't even give his age. Oh, well, didn't anybody here. But that's why I like the Dunn kid from it's Dunn, right? Damn it. What was that kid's name? Ryan Dunn. Yeah, Ryan Dunn. 6'6", 214 out of Virginia. He's 21 years old. I think that's part of the deal. I know some guys come out. The Wemby was really young last year, really skinny. He'll be a great player. But he was playing against adults, professional players these guys are playing against in Europe. And I think their games have progressed a little more than maybe the kids in college. That's just my theory. Again, if I'm not mistaken, there's a very good chance that 5 or 6 of the first 10 players are going to not have played college basketball. They'll either have played with the Ignite or they're going to have played in Europe somewhere. Don't keep with the NBA much anymore, but American players lack basic fundamentals that are reinforced in Europe. That's probably true as well, John. But I will say this much. I mean, I think there's a renaissance going on a bit in the NBA with a little bit more emphasis on fundamentals and ball movement. I mean, yes, there's a lot of three-pointers, but there's a lot of three-pointers being put up in Europe as well. But they're looking to get open three-pointers. That's the difference between, say, the 73 Knicks that I loved watching as a kid and watching that ball movement to get an easy bucket, a layup, an 8-footer, whatever. Now the ball movement, like you watch the Knicks in the playoffs, they move the ball very, very well. The Celtics, they win the championship. They move the ball very, very, very well and quickly. And it's to get open threes. It's, you get a backdoor play here and there, but I think the fundamentals are coming back. Less one-on-one basketball now, I think. Overall, again, you're still going to see the games devolve too much. Jalen Brunson, as great as he is, sometimes starts to do too much at the end of games. But I think their trade for Bridges is going to help them. So, I think, anyway, that's my opinion, and I think John is not too far off either, and that's kind of where I was going. These kids in Europe have better fundamentals and are more advanced because they may have played professional basketball since they were 16 years old, So I think that's so it's staying right to form here, it looks like. If Houston, I think I said Houston, right? Shepherd, yeah. So it's going pretty much to form. If that's the case, San Antonio's on the clock. Stephen Castle would be next. The NBA is still chasing Michael Jordan, and team play is suffering. Again, as I said, I think team play is making a comeback. If you watch, and again, you said you had drifted away from the NBA a little bit. There's a lot of people have, and I have from time to time. And when the Knicks aren't any good, I wasn't paying as close attention to the NBA, quite frankly. And I paid closer attention this year than ever, including the finals. And Boston played great team basketball. The Knicks played great team basketball. Their team fell apart with injuries, but I think you're seeing a renaissance in that arena. Good point. Ball movement was much better. The ball movement was much better when Randall went out, and even before Randall went out, he got a chance to play with OG a little bit. When OG came in here, and we're off college altogether now. The ball really moved because the spacing on the floor was much better. And you're going to see great spacing now with Bridges coming in here. This team is going to be the wings are going to be tremendous. And they're building this team to face the Celtics and beat the Celtics. There's no doubt about that. I really believe they got to get OG back. But anyway, to get it back to a college level, again, I really think, and John, I think, backs up my point a little bit. I think the reason the fundamentals are reinforced in Europe, it's the way the game is played, and also the fact that they're playing, a lot of them, as I said, better competition than they're playing in college here, and they're only playing a year in college and leaving. Oh, that was another thing here. Well, with any event, I was going to try to get to the fourth pick, but if it comes up, James, you can put it up. And if not, we're going to start to wrap it up here. So, guys, it's been a great night. Let's see. What do you got there, James? It's possible OG is up for $200 million max. They can pay him whatever they want because he's they had the Bird rights to him, right? So they can go over the cap to sign him. Now, to bring him and Hartenstein back, they may end up in that second level of over capness, which really is going to hurt them, as I talked about earlier. But I think it's very important that they bring Hartenstein back. I thought he was a big part of this playoff push, and he's a big man who can pass the basketball, and he played really good defense, offensive rebounds, and he stays on the floor, unlike Mitchell Robinson, who's their other centers. One of them, they got to sign one of them, right? In any event, we got way off the college path tonight, but you guys were great as always. We'll be off next week and for the month of July unless something important happens. You can catch us, and we'll catch you up on the college news on Sundays too, on the Stream of Consciousness. Join us Friday for our guest Dennis Rasmussen on 101 with Keith Engle. We'll do the Major League Baseball update. I'll have some guys who work for the Ted Williams Clinic coming in to talk about the Jimmy Fund benefit that's happening here in a couple of weeks out in Boston. They're going to come out and talk for 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll talk about their relationship with Ted Williams and the Jimmy Fund itself. It was a great cause that they've had in Boston for decades. So anyway, guys, have a great weekend, or have a great week. We'll see you on Friday, and we'll see you Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. Have a great weekend, or week. It's only Wednesday. See you guys later. Enjoy the NBA draft or whatever it is you're doing. See you next week.